Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to make a padded off-shoulder princess seam bodice. So here are my patterns. I've drafted both the front and the back. If you don't know how to draft a princess seam pattern, I'm going to link it up in the description box and on the screen. So right here I have the back and here the front. So I'll be working with the front first. What I did for the off-shoulder was to take off 2.5 inches from the arm sky. Now that's to get my off shoulder seam. So from the shoulder point at the arm sky area I took 2.5 inches. So here is my neckline. For my neckline I went with 4.5 inches. Now I want my neckline to be 5 inches, my off shoulder to be 3 inches. So I went with half an inch less, so that by the time I join the top part by half an inch, I'll be getting my correct off shoulder measurement and neckline measurement. And then I drew a line connecting the 2 points. So that's my neckline and my arm sky. In order to get a fitted off shoulder, what I did was to take off 2 inches from the arm sky towards my neckline. As you can see, you can go with 1.5 inches, but I decided to go with 2 inches. 1.5 inches is actually better if you don't want your neckline to be sort of too tight. And then this is how I'll be cutting it. So from my neckline and down to my arm sky that way. So I did the same thing for the back as well, and I made sure that the shoulder, the joinings were the same. So this is exactly the same thing. I took off 2 inches, connected to my neckline and the arm sky, and that's how I'm going to cut it. So now I have cut out my front princess seam. What I'm going to do next is to cut out the darts. After the dart, I'm going to show you how I readjust my princess seam, which is also in my original princess seam video. So I'm going to cut out the rest of my darts, and once I'm done with that now, what I did next was to place a piece of paper underneath the side that is not so curved. Now remember, I took out half an inch initially at the bust point before connecting the darts. So what I'm going to do is mark that bust point area. Now I'm going to be replacing that half inch back on this paper. The half inch I took out, I'm going to replace it back on this paper. So I'm going to mark half an inch at the bust point area again. And what I'm going to do is now connect from this top point to that half inch and then down to the apex of my dart, and then I'm going to cut it out following the curved line. And my front princess seam is ready. So for the back, it's very easy. All you need to do is just cut out the dart and follow the curve, and that is it. So now there's something I'm going to explain to you. I've written now on the curve side to add half an inch on fabric, which you can see written here is for both the front and the back. So now this is the lace fabric that I'm going to be using. And in order to do a padded pattern for lace, is very I don't want to say complicated. You have to use a lot of fabric so that of course the insides of your dress don't show. So what I'm going to do first is to pin my pattern to the lace fabric on fold. This is because this is the front piece. Now I do the same thing for the back as well. But as you can see, for this side of the back piece and the front piece, the curved side is going to be in 2 places. So when I place this on fold now, after cutting it out, I have to cut it open at the other edge. So this one requires 2 pieces. The one I just showed previously requires just 1 piece. And like I said earlier, to mark half an inch on the fabric, it's very important to put that allowance in because you are going to be joining the pieces together. So the same thing I did here was what I did for the previous pattern. I made sure to put half an inch on the outer side, the sides that will be joining to this curved area. So this is it. As you can see, I cut the pattern, and then there's half an inch showing on the other side. So the next I'm going to do is now divide this into two, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for the back princess seam pattern. So now these are the front pieces and the back pieces, the back piece and the front pieces. So now I'm going to get, this is what I call taffeta. So this will sort of like form a cover for the lace so that it doesn't show maybe what my inner wear. So I'm going to cut it the same way I cut my lace fabric, but I'm going to be cutting this in duplicates. So I'm going to sort of like have two patterns for bodice, both front and back, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. So like I said, I'm going to make this in duplicates. The whole princess seam for a pattern, I'm going to double it. I hope that explains it. So I'm going to cut, like I said earlier, I cut this the same way I cut my princess seam pattern, and I'm going to do this twice for all the whole patterns. So now I'm done with this. Like I said, I'm going to duplicate this since this is just for one bodice. So you'll be able to understand the reason why as we go along in the video. So now here is one piece of the bodice for the front. This is the front. Then here is another piece for the front again. Like I said, I wanted to duplicate it. So I did the same thing for the back. I duplicated the back as well, which is right here. Here is one piece. As you can see, that's the center back, and then here is another piece. So to one of the bodice, now this is what I call wadding or interlining or interfacing. Basically what this does is to sort of like pad my fabric, so it has this thickness. So one side has a sticky side, the other side is smooth. So it's the sticky side that you're going to place on your taffeta, which I placed on my taffeta, and then I applied heat so that it sticks to it. So what I'm going to do now is cut this to the same exact pattern as my lining and my taffeta. Now this is what I have at the end of the day. So the next thing I'm going to do is now take a piece of the taffeta matching the interlining that I've just cut out, and I pin them together. The reason I'm pinning them together is such that I don't make any mistakes at the end of the day. So as you can see, those ones match. I do the same thing for the back bodice. So my iron is prepped and ready for ironing. So what I'm going to do is place the iron on the fabric, on the taffeta, and then just apply heat, rub it all together, and at the end of the day you see that both the taffeta and the interlining have been joined together, and I trim off the excess. So you can also apply heat to the other side as well, and as you can see, this is what I have, and I do the same thing for the rest. Now I have all these, and then it's time for sewing. Remember, I've said that when you are sewing princess seam, you have to make sure you sew from the bottom up. Don't sew from the top to the bottom. Start from the bottom and sew all the way up. So now I'm going to be sewing on the straighter side of the princess seam. Now the more curved side is going to be underneath so that you can follow the curved pattern. That's how I sew mine. I don't know how other people do theirs. So make sure you start with a back stitch, follow the curve, and if there's any need to stretch your fabric, please do so. So I'm done with this, and then this is how you can see the curve of the front part coming out already. So which means we are getting there. So I do the same thing for the other side as well. Make sure to follow the straight side while the curved part is under. So once I'm done, this is what I have. You can see the bust really coming out. I do the same thing for the back as well. So now once I have the back, the next thing I'm going to do now is take the other taffeta that doesn't have the interlining attached to it, and then my lace that has been cut. And what I'm going to do first is, place the I want to arrange it now. I have my fabric lace, I have the taffeta with the wording, and then the taffeta alone covering the wording. So this is how I arrange it. As you can see, hope this is self-explanatory. So now I take the taffeta with the wording and the lace. I'm going to just sew the edge, the top, my neckline. Now I'm going to sew my neckline by 0.25 inches. The reason I'm doing this, I'm not sewing everything together, is I just want to hold my fabric in place so that it doesn't shift when I'm doing the overall sewing. Now once I'm done with that side, I do the same thing for the side as well, 0.25 inches. I do the same thing for the side, do the same thing for the other side. Now once I'm done with this, as you can see, what I'm going to do now is place the other taffeta without the wording, right side touching the lace, and then sew by 1/2 inch. So I like to do it this way so that every stitch, every seam is properly placed. So I sew by 1/2 inch. Now after this, I do a top stitch. After this, I do a top stitch just to hold my neckline in place, and then I sew the sides as well by 1/2 inch. So once I'm done with that, so now here is the side. I'm sewing the side as well. And once I'm done, I turn it inside out, and this is what I have. You can see the fabric is padded, the bust is coming out really nice, and that's it.